teachers plan. That's what teachers do. And I know that some temperaments, phlegmatic temperaments mostly, get really overwhelmed when it comes to like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. I don't know what to do. And then you decide to just run away. The bulk of my emails from Phlegmatics go like this. I joined your program and then I got scared. And here I am 6 months later. Will you please help me? Don't wait. Don't wait to ask for help. Ask for help like right now. If you are struggling right now, ask for help right now. If you're a member and you're like, oh no, I don't know what to do and it's easier to run away, ask for help right now. If you're not a member but you want to become one, now is the time. Now is the time because, again, we do a lot of work with our planning work with our members, and we're going through like all the planning process, and I hold your hand step by step by step. So there we go. That's your daily thinking, feeling, willing nugget. You should come and do it with us. We'll have fun. Try to sort yourself out. You can, but often what happens is we can see everybody else, but we can't see ourselves. So really do a lot of work on sort of seeing yourself, because what happens is how you show up is going to determine how you teach those children. And some children need you to show up in a different way. And so when you're sort of thinking about your temperament and thinking about their temperament and how you're going to work with that through teaching, it's really important to think about it while you're planning. So, you know, I really wanted to bring this topic as you're sort of going through and working on your planning so that you can think about each individual child that you're planning for. And, you know, what happens is as we get more balanced in ourselves and as we understand ourselves more, then we can show up the way those children need us to. So for instance, a choleric child needs you to be choleric. Not as in everything you're barking out orders, but as in you have to be the leader that they need you to be, or they will not trust you. They will only trust another choleric that can sort of hold that that space of, you know, that they can trust what they say and they know that what they say goes. And so you have to be that person for that child if you're going to have strength and success in your homeschooling with them. And that doesn't mean that you have to be choleric all the time. It just means you have to show up as the mom that they can trust. And so you want to really be thinking about that in each child. So the choleric child really needs you to be able to do that. The sanguine child needs you to be able to shift gears, like fairly quickly sometimes, but because they have this sort of need to keep things moving. And so with that, you also don't want to create a little ADD stuff going. You want to help them. Your job with them is to sort of help them tame that will. And you can do that through we have different will building activities within Waldorf, you know, whether it be watercolor painting or any of the handwork or modeling, all of those activities are will building activities. The idea that you have to stick with something until it's finished. So with a sanguine child, you're really working on helping them tame that will, but you also want to keep things fairly exciting, but not exciting in like, woohoo, we're going to have a party every day, but more like you're moving things around. And then with the phlegmatic child, you really want to focus on their comfort a lot. That doesn't mean that you're wrapped up in a blanket doing lessons, but it means you're sort of keeping that in mind. So do you have a question over there?
Rhiannon says, I recently realized, possibly because I'm sanguine, that one of my issues with Waldorf has been that I have a hard time expressing to others, to my choleric child and my melancholic husband, the worth of what Waldorf teaches a child and how it is taught. I've spoken with other women who say they have struggled with this. It seems the traditional method is easily accepted to these temperaments.
Okay, which temperaments? The melancholy and the choleric. I think that that's probably true until they understand it. When somebody truly understands Waldorf, like truly understands the way the curriculum developmentally meets the child, it's like light bulbs go off all over. Like, oh my goodness, what? And then when they see it in action and they actually see it meet their child, then it's like this knowing that comes to you. So people ask me all the time, how are you so confident in this? Like how is it that you've done this for so long and that you buy into the whole thing? Well, because I know it works. That's how I know. That's how I'm so confident, because I know it works. I've watched it. I've raised, I've got 5 children. The youngest is 8, the oldest is 22, and we've walked this walk. And I've watched it every step of the way meet them exactly where they were, exactly what they needed, exactly where it met their temperament, it fed them in the proper way, it helped balance them. Doesn't mean they're all perfect. Nobody's perfect. Like, we have to get through that piece and remember that there's no perfect beings that are walking the earth right now. We're all striving. We're all striving in some way. What we do in Waldorf is we lay that foundation of striving for them. We lay that foundation of, this is the goal. This is what you can achieve. And our job is to help them sort of balance their temperament so that they can sort of stand in that place as an adult. And it's definitely a work in progress for all people. I'm a work in progress. You're a work in progress. It's what we do. And we're really working on, how we show up, how we're thinking. I think in general, even though I sort of laugh because I do think that Waldorf attracts a lot of melancholies. And that's not meant as as a slam to anybody. I think what it is you guys are the ones that see the beauty first, but then what happens is often you get paralyzed and you go, I just can't do that. I can't bring that the way I need to bring that to my child. And so you either go in search of a Waldorf school, which is a great place to be in most cases, or you decide that it's so amazing and so beautiful you just can't do it. And so I would say for the other temperaments, once they understand it, I know that there are families that depart from Waldorf as children get older sometimes. But always, if they were sold on it in the beginning, they always come back. Always come back. Almost every day at this time of the year, I get messages that say, we really departed from it and I'm really sad that we did and I want to come back. And so we work to help them come back. We work to help them, come back to this space of, and it's not about being brainwashed or anything silly like that. It's more about understanding that those underpinnings, those foundational pieces are like the foundation for a good, strong, healthy home, and those pieces being rhythm, understanding your inner work, your planning, all of those pieces work no matter what curriculum you use. But when you put Waldorf next to any other curriculum, if you're doing Waldorf correctly, it will soar above that other curriculum, always. And why? Oh, because it meets the child in every way. Head, heart, and hands. It doesn't just meet their academics. It doesn't just meet their, their lower need for other heart-centered things. It meets all of it. If you're working it correctly, it meets all of it. And so if you're constantly moving to something else, constantly struggling with this doesn't do everything I need it to do, then you have to step back and go, okay, there's something I'm missing here about my understanding of this method. Because once you understand it, you won't depart from it. Once you truly get it, you might alter things here and there. You might alter sort of story content or some things like that. You might go deeper with some science or deeper, you might go deeper in some of those areas. But once you understand it, you won't depart from it because you will see it in action. Seeing it in action is something that takes your effort, though. You have to show up, do the work, and be willing to see it in action. Be willing to take your children down that path. And once you are willing to take your children down that path, you are going to have amazing, you're going to have a testimony of it. This is it. This is how it works. So when people ask me that, I go, well, because I see it over and over again, not just with my own children now, but I work with thousands of families every year. Thousands, not hundreds, not tens, thousands of families every year. This works. So if you're willing to put forth the effort to learn from me, I'll change your life and how you look at schooling. And I know that's a really bold statement, but I'm willing to make it. In my prayer and meditation work, this is what I get often. You need to be more bold. I'm like, but dang, I'm already pretty bold. No, not there yet. So I'm bold and I'm out there today. If you follow my instructions, it'll change your life. I absolutely believe it. And that's not my ego. That is through me, because I understand this method and I understand how to do it at home. And I understand how to bring your children this amazing space of balance and your family to an amazing space of balance. But you got to do what I say. You got to follow my directions, because I have a recipe, and it's a pretty dang good one. Tastes pretty tasty. Pretty tasty. Sell this curriculum on other people. I mean, whether it be your in-laws or your partner or what have you. You have to think about what makes them tick. Like, think about their temperament and what's important to them. If academics are important to them, then you have to talk about the longevity of the academics, that while it starts a little, not slower, it definitely has depth to it. It's not slow. It looks slow on the outside, because people will say to me, oh, Waldorf, that's that method where they don't learn how to read until 3rd grade. And I go, not my students. We're working on that 1st grade. What I will say to you is the fluency of children that learn with this method is so much deeper than the fluency of others often. Not always, but often. And so I ask you to look at that piece. I think that one really, if you're just trying to sell them on Waldorf in general, there's a Waldorf alumni page, and it lists poets, actors, Nobel Peace Prize winners, heads of companies. It lists heads of government. It lists people that have amazing brains. It lists all of these Waldorf graduates that have walked this path and what they've done with their career or with their education. So, also I am a firm believer in that we give them the foundation, and then they have to take it from there. Just because we give them this amazing education, everybody has their own agency. They might get to the end and go, okay, well, I'm going to go do this thing over here, and instead of this path that you and I discussed. It's all good. We have to allow them to do that. Melancholic child. So the melancholic child really, when you're planning for the melancholic child, you really want to think about sort of how you're serving the world, and how they are, they like to help. They need to help. They need to serve. And so they really, when you're working on their lessons, and service is not like, oh, you need to serve me. It's not like that. They light up when they're in the service of somebody else. So their content needs to be geared towards that, so that they can see, that needs to be front and center for them. So as they see that, as they feel that piece of, I need to serve the world, then they light up, they come alive, they get very excited and enlivened about the work that's ahead of them. I want you to really think about your planning and think about the children that you're planning for. So, this is all about knowing your audience. And when you know your audience and you know yourself, then you can bring to your audience what they need. And if you're thinking to yourself, lady, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I got 6 kids. They're all different. Well, when you are planning for them, you need to be in an active space of prayer and meditation. And if you say to me, I don't pray, rethink that, because nobody ever got wet from the word water. Okay? You're okay. Prayer and meditation they go hand in hand. And so, when you're really truly diving into what does this child need, and you're spending the time to ask, because when you don't spend the time to ask, I don't even know why you're planning, because you're just planning for in general. When you stop and take the time to ask, what does this child need? It's much different than what I've written sometimes in the curriculum. You might see our curriculum and go, I love this, I want to go with this. And then you might have some meditation work on one of your children and go, okay, I need to alter this for this child. And you've got to get good at listening. I use the example back when I was planning for the school year for my children a few years ago. My oldest daughter was about to study ancient cultures, and my boys had loved Egypt. They were all into it. It was so much fun. They just loved it. And so I just thought, well, she's going to love it too. And in my planning, I had this prompting that it needed to not be so long, that I needed to shorten that up, that she wasn't going to like it. And I brushed it off. I was like, I'm going to plan it the way I planned it for the boys. They had so much fun. We got to Egypt and she was like, are you kidding me? This is the most boring stuff ever. And I remember thinking, what did I do wrong? But then I remembered about my prompting and I remembered, oh, wait a minute. Source energy, God, tried to tell me what she needed when I was planning and I didn't listen. So I had to go back to the drawing board, rethink a few things, and we dove back in. We still did Egypt, but we did a much more shortened version, and then we dove into the next space. So really and truly, you've got to really think about your children. And that's where the end of the year evaluation is so vital. So we did an evaluation at the end of the school year, and that really sort of, you're looking ahead then. You're looking back at where you've been, back at what, and it's not just about like what you didn't do. So I get so many moms that are like, okay, well, this is my evaluation. It's just a list of things they didn't do. I say, no, that's not an evaluation. That's not an evaluation. That's like a self-deprecating checklist. What you want is a true evaluation of where you were this year. Surely you've done something and your child has had some growth. Even if you did nothing, your child has had some growth. You have to look at what that growth is. And so that's what you're writing down when you're doing that evaluation. And then you're sort of looking at, okay, these are the things we didn't get to, and I want to make sure we cover them first next year. So that then informs your first part of your planning. But it also gives you the opportunity then to really think about your child and really think about their temperament and really think about sort of the developmental phase that they're in and what they've done and where, they started here and they've gone here. Like I think about Samuel, oh my gosh, honey, like, don't you think like he has made crazy strides? And if I don't take the time to reflect on that and you don't take the time to reflect on your children and just how amazing they are, even without us, then you kind of don't know where you're going with them. So take the time to truly understand your children. Truly take the time. And I would say you want to do that evaluation and then dive into the making sure you're reading the curriculum for the new year. And if you don't have your curriculum yet, you need to buy it like pronto, like now, so that you can get started. The reason being, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. Do not wait. That is how you have a school year that is falling apart by November. When you want longevity, when you want true and honest fun in your school year where you're not spending every waking moment thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't planned enough. What am I going to do for school tomorrow? No. If you've had those conversations with yourself this year, stop and get busy right now. It's time. Anything over there?
Bridget Elger Cadigan says, so if we didn't homeschool last year, should the evaluation from last year be centered on their education or other developmental things?
It should be both. So if you are coming to this and you didn't homeschool last year, I would consider asking their teacher where they were, asking their teacher what they covered, and if you are not in a good place where you can ask that, then you kind of have to do some evaluation on your own. So like I often will do like a math evaluation or recommend doing a math evaluation for a younger child. For a child that's up to 3rd grade, we go, all right, well, we're going to plow through this math and we'll stop when you get stuck. And then that's a great way to evaluate sort of where they are with math. If you didn't homeschool last year, you definitely want to make sure you get some form drawing in and you get that handwork going. That's a great project for the summer. But honestly, you should go and ask that teacher. Often there's parent-teacher conferences that a lot of children are already out of school, so parent-teacher conferences have already happened. But I would call that teacher, I would message that teacher, and I would say, I need to know sort of what you covered this year. Like, what were the highlights? Because my child has forgotten, which normally happens. Because if you say, what did you do in school this year? They'd be like, So you want to ask. You want to ask questions. If you are not homeschooling this year, but you're planning to homeschool in the future, keep that in mind. Keep in mind that you need to ask questions at those parent-teacher conferences and really understand what it is that they are studying so that you've got that in mind when you are planning for the next year. You put Waldorf next to any other curriculum If you're doing Waldorf correctly, it will soar above that other curriculum, always. And why? Oh, because it meets the child in every way, head, heart, and hands.